As you're looking at UFOs in the sky, they're out here giving away the actual investment blueprint.
I ain't gonna give in now, I ain't gonna live this now. I'm gonna be when I'ma kill this stuff real quick. I'ma go take it to town, cause I gotta be that king in their ring when I'm knocking them out when I'm back with the whip. Cause I am just up on the journey, you just know that I'm just going to say.
Warriors, rise. Grand rising. Good evening, warriors all over the world. Very excited to be with you guys today. My name is Coach JV. I am the top health, mindset, crypto, and business coach in the whole wide world. Remember, what you believe in your heart, you think in your mind will eventually become your words and become your reality. If you can see it in your mind, eventually you can hold it right here in your hands. What you repeatedly do gets ingrained in your subconscious mind. What gets ingrained in your subconscious mind becomes an unconscious activity. And as you're looking up this way in the sky, there's always another narrative going on this way. So as we're looking at UFOs all over, here's actually what is happening. So Gary Gensler, the head of the SEC, is giving away the full blueprint of where we're heading. Gary Gensler, head of the SEC, something rhymes with ESG, environmental, social governance. Wow, that's pretty cool. Head of the SEC is giving away the hint, which is ESG. Let's dive right into it. So we're going to watch this 5-minute video, okay? And I'm going to break it down. Now, you need to pay attention to the end of this video, voice inflection, and what is actually happening. So it's a 5-minute video. Then I'm going to break down the facts, figures, numbers, logic. Again, as you look up in the sky at all these UFOs, the whole financial system is completely getting flipped upside down.
Let me ask you, talking about clarity, and this is maybe a philosophical, sort of broader policy perspective. I think that there is a common view that your office is using all available means effectively to keep crypto out of the mainstream financial system through enforcement, accounting rules, inspections. Clearly, there's not real guidance yet on custody. And this may very well be a reasonable policy choice, if that's the choice. The question is, if that's the choice, why not just say it publicly?
We're using all available tools. We're talking directly to market participants. We take the meetings, we say, this is how you comply. There's a handful of tokens that have actually registered.
Okay, so let's pause for just a moment. We're meeting with participants. Ripple asked for clarity the whole time before Jay Clayton initiated a case against Ripple. But they'll go meet with FTX 6 months before the collapse?
The intermediaries, the storefronts, if you wish, the casinos that people are investing in and investing at need to properly comply and disentangle these bundled products. The business model that they've set up is rife with conflicts. And so we've been very candid with them. I've done it in multiple speeches since I came to the agency. We'll continue to engage. We're technology neutral. But if this field has any chance of survival and success, it's time-tested rules and laws to protect the investing public. Disclosure, full, fair, and truthful disclosure. Address conflicts and disaggregate these bundled businesses, and don't have your hand in the customer's pocket using their funds or your own platforms.
Okay, so think about what he said, full and fair disclosure. Then we would love full and fair disclosure from you. That's all we're asking for. That's all Ripple was asking for.
But in terms of the larger industry and whether you even seem to suggest the larger industry may or may not survive. One of the pieces of that survival to some degree, I think, has been this idea that one day there may be something like a Bitcoin ETF or something else. Grayscale, as you know, appealing the SEC's Bitcoin ETF decision, which is effectively to say it can't happen. Is there any path at which you think either that specific ETF or something like it could?
The paths, I'm not going to speak about one, but let me generally say, Andrew, the path forward is well trodden. Whether it's large companies that you follow every day, the Apples and other tech companies, or the automobile companies, manufacturing companies know how to register their offerings. The exchanges like the New York Stock Exchange and NASDAQ and so forth know how to be compliant and come into registration. The big broker dealers and the small, thousands of broker dealers, the mutual funds.
Right.
I dare go on. We have tens of thousands of registrants that properly, in good faith, comply. They register, they make the proper disclosures. It's time for this group to do so. The runway is getting awfully short, and we're here to try to protect the investing public.
And the reason why the runway is getting awfully short, because they initiated a case against Ripple to bring in a new Howey test so that they could have clear regulation, so they could have something to regulate them on. Okay, so that's why that case was initiated, and that's why the runway is getting short. I believe we're getting very close to a settlement.
And then separately, while we have you, I did want to.
Okay, this gets really important. Okay, this is the stuff that nobody in crypto is paying attention to. This is why I want to take you guys deeper. So after this video, listen to what he says on the back end, watch voice inflection, and watch how he starts to react to the back end questions.
Ask you about this Wall Street Journal report that the SEC is planning to ease up on some of the climate disclosure rules that had earlier been proposed in reaction to some of the investor pushback. What is the state of play in your mind?
So we've made a proposal about 8-10 months ago to bring some consistency and comparability to the disclosures already happening. Climate risk disclosures. Investors are making investments based on these disclosures. We got nearly 15,000 public comments on that proposal. It is customary, Andrew, in each of our rulemakings that we review all that. We think through the economics. We think through the legal authorities that commenters have raised. And
okay, do you see how his like demeanor started to change right there? He kind of swallowed. We thought through it. Like, just watch.
It's quite customary to make adjustments.
Right.
Your viewers know this, that we did something about insiders selling their stock, and we finalized it in December. We adjusted from the proposal.
Right.
We're taking up something next Wednesday with regard to settlement cycles. This proposal to move to what's called one-day settlement from two-day settlement.
How much of that?
It's customary to make adjustments.
How much of that reaction, though, from investors do you think is based on the political backlash? And I want to read you. This is from Patrick McHenry, recently announcing a new working group for what he calls a threat to capital markets posed by the far left. He says progressives are trying to do with American business what they already did to our public education system, using institutions to force their far left ideology on American people. Their latest tool in these efforts is environmental, social, and governance proposals. How much of you think of this as the
Okay, now watch the voice inflection, and I'm going to give you facts, figures, numbers, logic.
political machine putting pressure on the investor class, which is then putting pressure on you?
Look, I like to say we're merit neutral, whether it's about crypto or climate risk, but we're non-investor protection neutral or capital formation neutral. And so it's about, just in this space for us, it's about bringing consistency and comparability to disclosures that are already being made about climate risks. And investors seem to be today making decisions about this information, these disclosures. And it's not to us about achieving anything else but some consistency and comparability and disclosures.
Okay, so it's not to them about consistency and disclosures. That's it. Okay, let's take a deep dive into this. So let's go down our path. The World Economic Forum was created in 1971. We attached them to gold standard in 1971. The World Economic Forum is to take us to zero carbon by 2030. Okay, as they've been preaching that narrative, okay, the SEC put out their climate risk disclosure rules. Why did the SEC issue a climate risk disclosure rule? Climate change, and the first thing President Biden did when he came into office, the first thing he did was get us back into the Paris Agreement. First thing he did when he went into the office. Climate change creates financial risk for companies. As the impacts of climate change accelerates, companies face new and growing risks. Companies must confront the physical impacts of climate change, such as worsening national disasters from hazardous flooding and dangerous heat waves. They must also adapt to changing consumer preferences, changing their preferences and shifting regulatory landscape as state and countries take steps to reduce greenhouse emissions. These climate risks create financial risk in companies and for investors. In 2019, a CDP, an international nonprofit focused on environmental disclosures, found 215 of the largest global companies face nearly $1 trillion in risk and climate impact. They're basically saying, you better get up with the agenda, you better move into climate change, or you're not going to get your funding. Okay, so they built a task force on climate change related disclosures. Climate change prevents financial risk to global disclosures. So they have a task force. Okay, this is ISO. We know all about ISO 20002. Okay, we know all about that, the ISO tokens, the connection, the new infrastructure, Web 2.0 to Web 3.0, which is very energy efficient. And also a lot of these cryptocurrencies, okay, allow companies to do their climate tracking. Okay, very, very important to pay attention to what is actually happening. So this was a letter written. Thank you for the offer from ISO to the SEC. Thank you for the opportunity to comment on the newly proposed climate financial disclosures rules. We note that with great interest in the SEC's proposal to change under the Securities Act of 1933, which would require registrants to provide climate-related information in their registration statements, annual reports, and audited financial statements. We agree with Chairman Gensler of the importance in providing investors a consistent, comparable decisions, useful information in making their investment decisions. In particular, we note the following. Well, it has been acknowledged that proposal rules to require companies to disclose climate-related risk have had a material effect on the business operations or financial stability. Climate risks are nevertheless increasingly sufficient to make intelligent long-term investment decisions. Investors need a new non-traditional financial information relative to how climate change affects firms' long-term performance, which is within the remits of the SEC mandate. Companies that are most likely to succeed in the transition to sustainable future are those whose top managements and their boards are integrating climate change considerations into their strategy, which makes climate risk significantly material to the long-term planning, such as pensions provision. Currently, companies do not provide consistent information on how climate risk affects firm strategies. For investors to benefit from these changes, they need greater transparency and the ability to receive the information, key in quantitative form, that can allow for peer-to-peer comparison to contextualize a disclosure information. Web 2.0 to Web 3.0. Let's go down to ISO 20002. The standard provides methodology for creation of financial messaging and maintains the ISO 20002 financial repository, public available catalog of messages in the centralized dictionary of business items. ISO 20002 enjoys wide adoption by financial markets, infrastructures, and their communities for the proceeding of transactions in areas of payments, securities, credits, debits, foreign exchange, trade finance. Think about that. ISO sending letters to Gary Gensler, agreeing with the climate change and the financial risk. And at the same time, all these companies are switching. We know the ISO 20002 tokens, Algorand, XRP, XDC, XLM. We got R3 in there. We got Chase connected in there. We got Ethereum connected. Everything's connected. All right, I think we're back, guys. There's a little gap there. I'll try to edit that out. I'm not sure what happened while I was talking about that. The internet completely collapsed. Let's see if we can get us back up and running here. Let's see. Boom, boom. All right, so there might be a little gap there. I'll see if I can cut that. We'll keep rolling here. Okay, so where was I? Okay, so I was talking about BlackRock. So this is their PowerPoint on global energy transition. Okay, and this is the World Economic Forum Global Risk Report 2023 shows why climate risk is an opportunity to build a greener economy. You can dive through all this. We know that Larry Fink is on the board of trustees for the World Economic Forum, who is the CEO of BlackRock, and his mission is to be the guardian of the World Economic Forum's mission and values. And then you got Blackstone, which Larry Fink used to be part of Blackstone, which is one of the largest. So BlackRock, Blackstone, and Bridgewater Associates are some of the biggest asset managers in the world. Blackstone's an integral part to ECG, environmental social governance. If you just dive into it, they're all initiating ECG. Okay, so you got to pay attention to the climate friendly tokens, extremely important. And then I showed you guys this a while ago with Bridgewater Associates. I broke down this YouTube video. I'm not sure how jacked up this video got because of that pause. My internet literally just shut off while I was speaking about this. Macro research, portfolio construction. So this video is very powerful. Let's just see what he says in the beginning of it, and then I'll try to edit that part out.
Since environmental and social issues already are shaping how policymakers, how corporate executives, how consumers, and even how big institutional investors are acting, one really does not have a choice. One has to understand how social and environmental issues drive economies and markets.
Bridgewater is a macro investor.
Okay, so I just wanted you to hear that one part. I showed you that video before. I don't know how jacked up this video got. I don't edit my videos. I ain't got time for that stuff. We got to move. All right. So anyways, you heard what he said. They have to adjust. They have to adjust. So as we look up at the skies at UFOs and balloons, guys, the whole financial system is shifting. Okay. So we've been on the right track for a very long time, investing in our intrinsic value cryptocurrencies, the ISO tokens, focusing on the infrastructure of the financial system, the new reporting system. So I love you guys. I appreciate you. I'd love to have you inside the Warrior Academy, 7 days for free in 2023. Click the description down below. My apologies for that video. If it's jacked up, then it is, but we're going to keep rolling. Love you guys. Warriors, rise, get your shit together. Let's go.